get downtown, LaSalle Park, and Pico Union engaged in this conversation. Russell, you have a comment or anything yet? Nope? Hanging in there, huh? Okay, how about LaSalle Park? No? Pico Union, way back. Any comments?
Yes, I think that the Congress, as it was a little bit more social. I think we have to bring the issues of the communities to be presented for the whole city, to have some resolutions. So it should be some sessions where each area can present their problems to be resolved by the city council. Because you know, if we do it through the Congress, I think we'll have more power to resolve the issues that we confront.
Anybody else?
I just wanted to keep folks in mind that we really are moving towards a regional service delivery infrastructure. It's going to take us a while to get there, but Carol and I have covered, I think, 4 regions so far. We thought we'd get to all 7 by now, but you know, it's like herding cats sometimes, right? To try to get folks to meet at one time at one place. But our plan is to do this on at least 3 times a year. That we would go around, talk to each of the regions, and over time I think we could start building in some training, some networking, you know, as it grows. So where it's very much, that's also an opportunity to build in some of the things that I'm hearing you wanting about networking, sharing ideas, best practices, and so forth, so that if we can think about that as feeding into something that is larger, I think we can have more chances of connecting more of the things that we want.
And I think when you said small or topical, that was number of people, and it could be by geographic areas or whatever. But if one of these smaller topical subject areas was in, let's say, in San Pedro area, for one reason or another, that doesn't preclude maybe people from coming from anyplace else. I mean, there was a meeting like at what, Dominguez Hills or Universal. I mean, it's mutually inconvenient for some people, right? I mean, from one end of the city or another. So you're never going to find an ideal location, I don't think, unless you know your neighborhood council lives in that particular jurisdiction and so forth. So let me see if we can get certain things listed here in terms of, so what are the things that you want to gather or get or include in a citywide event? And that's going back to what you were saying, Greg, that at least in the initial thinking, there needed to be some kind of gathering citywide, at least a call to get everybody citywide to some location or another. What would be the ingredients of this?
One thing that was mentioned at the last meeting I thought was really bright is if we did a job-specific gathering. That is, all the treasurers sit in one room for 2 hours and hash out treasurer issues, secretaries, secretary issue, land use issues, so that you are with people with common background, common job descriptions, people who've dealt with these problems at their neighborhood council, so they might have something to help each other out. And these certainly can take the form of breakout sessions.
Okay.
I mean, they don't have to be the theme of the entire day, but I don't think anybody wants to be in both the treasurer and the secretary and the this and the that sessions all simultaneously. You could pick the one that you are most interested in.
And if you are, let's say, like I'm the third vice president.
Yeah.
So I would go as third vice president, which looks at elections and which looks at bylaws.
Whatever.
And that would be the one that I would go, and other people could who had an interest in that subject area. And that's a type of example here. So what would be the goal of this job of life? I mean, what are we trying to do? We're trying to get everybody...
Exchanging information, what works,
Okay.
what doesn't work.
Okay. So it's an exchange of information in terms of those similar job descriptions.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's working and what needs to change in terms of some things. Okay. Yes.
Speaking of the treasurers, last Congress in April, we had 3 sessions specifically for funding, I work for funding.
Okay.
We did not have an overwhelming turnout, and all 3 sessions were designed with specific things geared towards treasurers.
Okay. But this is slightly different in the sense that you're just gathering people who have, we're going by positions or jobs. So anybody who's the chair of a particular committee or whatever, you would try to gather people in that way. Heinrich and then.
Yeah, and I would put there any updates also for treasurers or specific duties as part of that educational. But as I see that, I see smaller topical and I see citywide, you know, I would RSVP for both of those. If you get enough, you have it. If you don't, it's canceled.
That I would hope that for this discussion, we really could try to stay focused on outcomes in terms of when the event is over, what do we want to have accomplished? You know, and I know it's hard to think that way because, you know, our minds are not trained to do that way, but as much as, I think if you know, my discipline has always been form follows function. So if you define what we want to get out of it, then we could always determine, it's relatively easier to determine whether that should be done in smaller groups or larger groups, or et cetera.
I think we've tried just about every different means of getting people together and discussing issues. One of the best ones that I ever saw, however, had nothing to do with Dunn. It was called by the city controller, and she called together all of the treasurers. And it was an overflow room. It was an enormous number of treasurers that showed up, and I believe the reason that they did is because, Melina, what percent of the rules on the funding program come from Dunn? What percent come from the controller in the city? So it's a huge, like, it's next to nothing as far as Dunn's rules. So this gave the treasurers an opportunity to sit with the person who was making the rules and who could possibly change a number of the rules. And that gave it a lot of meaning, and they knew that when they walked out of there, there was going to be a set of possible resolves. And that's why I always thought that what I'd like to see more of at the Congress are what I call brainstorming sessions, which is what you're seeing here right now. And it has all the benefits, I think, of what people are trying to achieve. You've got a specific issue. Right now, it's the Congress of Neighborhoods. You're getting to know each other. It's not just everyone gets 2 minutes to speak and, you know, there's no response. And if you do it right, you've got resolves and you've got outcomes, and you've got a list of possible solutions. So that's what I would recommend is a large dose, if the neighborhood councils want it, of pick a subject and you brainstorm it, and it's facilitated by someone like you, and you have results at the end.
Okay, and what I'm hearing here is this one's slightly different because it's like all jobs. We're focusing in on treasurer, but even in one of those cases, you may have a special meeting that draws the people and issues that are pertaining to finances, and that might be a special meeting.